Hey, Centra, thanks so much for tuning in this week for Wellness Wednesday. We are going to take a little bit of a diversion from our normal Well-Being Wednesday in light of everything that's going on with COVID-19. And we just kind of want to use this space to communicate with you about what we're doing to make sure that we're addressing your well-being in this time, not just from a wellness standpoint, but from a Centra standpoint and a community standpoint. And we hope that these tips will be helpful to you. So we have a lot of information to cover. We're going to point you to websites and phone numbers and different resources that, again, we hope will be helpful to you. So, Aubrey, let's start off with just self-care in this time. What can our caregivers be doing right now to address self-care?
Yeah, so it's very important right now to, one, remain active. I know that's a little bit more difficult because I know all of our YMCAs locally are closed, but we are doing a few things to help address those needs. I should say the Y is doing a few things to help address those needs. We will be sharing links on our Facebook page to some of the classes that they've recorded. If you follow them on Facebook or some of their teammates, you can find that information as well. So one way to stay active at home, of course, we've got awesome walking trails around here. If you live in a neighborhood, it was beautiful outside yesterday, and I just went for a long walk with my dog. So it was fantastic. We also realize that this is a time where stress levels might be a little bit higher than normal, whether it's a little bit of worry and fear over what's going on in our country and across the world, or even just with the added stress of schools being closed, having to take care of a lot more things than maybe you have had to in the weeks past. So we want to reference you back to our great EAP resources through our partners at HealthWorks. Just remember they are there and available for you and whatever need that you might have. They also have an awesome partnership with a work-life website that is available through our wellness portal. You can access that. It's been available, so some of you might have seen it before. But the really cool thing about that right now is they actually have live, up-to-date information about what is going on with COVID-19. So it's really helpful space for you to just go in and find out information that's been vetted a little bit already, but you don't have to do a lot of Google searching and things like that. So a great place to look for that information, but also to get connected. They have some options about childcare needs and things like that.
Very good. One of the things that we have recently put into place, if you are not a member of Centra's internal Facebook page, Centra Connect, we encourage you to go. It's available specifically for our caregivers. You can go and request to be a member, and then once you're approved, we have an offshoot group specifically for our caregiver community around COVID-19 resources. That could be anything like childcare needs. You know, we've got a lot of high schoolers. I in particular have a high schooler at home that is bored out of her mind after 3 days of quarantine or 3 days of furlough, not having school and staying home. And so these are ways for us to connect as the Centra community, caregiver community, and be able to talk about the things that maybe some of us have excess in, and then some of us have a need, and that we can really come together and help one another and care for one another in these days. So we certainly encourage you to do that as well. We also want to talk to you a little bit about if you are sick. If you're starting to feel sick, so what do we want you to do? The very first thing we want you to do, we don't want you to come to work, but we want you to contact Employee Health. Employee Health is really going to be your point of contact for anything health related as far as you're concerned in this time. They've set up a specific number for all COVID-19 questions for caregivers. That number is 200-1897. Again, it's 200-1897. And so want you to connect with your leaders and also just make sure that you're staying connected with employee health. They have so many answers, can guide you in what you need to do and what your protocol should be in this time. And then also we have set up, this is not just for caregivers, but for our for our community as well. We have a community COVID-19 hotline. You all are community members. You have family and neighbors that are community members that are probably asking you a lot of questions because you do work here at Centra. And so they're looking at you as kind of like the COVID-19 expert.
Yes.
Yes. So there is a hotline set up for that as well. That number is 200-1225. And that is the external COVID-19 number. People can call that. They have questions about testing, symptoms, etc. So those are just a few additional resources that we have for you. What other things, Aubrey, do we need to talk about? Maybe like precautions, just continuing to be cautious?
Yes, so we want to make sure to remember things like social distancing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a little bit further apart than we are right now to make this video. But also reminders of try to keep it less than 10 in a space of people as you're gathering for meetings or necessary times to come together and share information.
Right.
So just things like that we want to be really mindful of. And I think Stephanie already mentioned this, but washing your hands, making sure that we're doing that as well, and sharing with our families these key points, particularly children. I've heard some really fun ways to teach kids the importance of washing your hands. So make it a fun experience for them.
Absolutely. And in this time for us as caregivers to be the model for our community, to make sure that, yes, we're washing our hands, we're not touching our faces, that we are keeping social distancing, and really that we are limiting our activities outside of our home to necessity only. Of course, we still want you to get out in nature. We're at a really good point in time in the fact that the weather is just getting ready to break. Take a hike, go for a walk. But as far as social gatherings, of course, we know more than 10, or meetings. We want to make sure that we're having as many meetings online as we can rather than having face-to-face, that we're limiting that. And so we really want to model that for our community. One other thing in the meantime that is probably top of mind is travel furlough. That is still in effect. And so if you have traveled, are traveling, will travel in the next 14 days, contact Employee Health. If you are unsure if your travel plans are going to be affected, if you're unsure if you should be furloughed when you get back, contact Employee Health. Let your leader know. Better to be safe before you go and ask before you go. And then also, there are probably a lot of questions around working remote. And we're not going to go over every single solitary answer or combination of examples here, but there's going to be information forthcoming on that. And then we're going to have a site on Centra People that will house all of that information, kind of protocols and access, and again, connect with your leader, and in that case, also connect with your HR business partner. They will have the answers. They will be able to answer all questions that we won't be able to address today. Aubrey, anything else that we need to think about, we need to talk about?
I think just the reminder that this is a space that we will be updating you regularly, at least weekly. You can expect some updates from us around your general well-being and answering some of the big questions that are out there. But I think that's pretty much it for today.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Centra, for tuning in. We want to say a big shout out to our leadership team for all that they're doing to keep our community safe, to keep our caregivers safe. We also want to thank our caregivers all for all that they're doing as we see tents going up and we see people ready and preparing, and you're our heroes. So thank you so much for all that you're doing. And Centra, so join us again next week as we discuss more around COVID-19. We want you to do well, we want you to be well, and we want you to
Think well.
think well. Awesome. You all have a great week.